Hello there and welcome to another edition of Rules Unveiled. This time we have another special to look at. This is the World Series 1 or World Series Episode 1. I hope you enjoy. This is the first time in the entire reboot that battle music returned to the series, even though obviously music was already made for the series that was played in the in-between, but for whatever reason they only just decided to add music in for the last two episodes because the production was all over the place. This episode was also the first time where clips from the original run were shown, as some of Dietor's highlights from Series 5 was shown. See, they do care about the classic run. The closing shot of this episode, zooming away from the arena, used a clip of Apollo and Behemoth at the end of their heat final, instead of Apollo and Dietor. Rather interestingly, Team Nemesis appeared in the first ever Robot Wars and now appears in the currently last ever Robot Wars. Team Nemesis attempted to qualify in Series 8 with an unknown successor to Dietor, however it failed to qualify. Both Dietor and Rabbid M8 are repurposed stock bots, Cadena Machina and D in particular. Rabbid M8 is the only robot to represent Portugal in Robot Wars. Rabbid M8 was also the last robot to compete on Robot Wars without an active weapon. Like D, Rabbid M8 also won a battle via split decision, and was the only robot to win a split decision from the judges in Series 10. Throughout each of Tomahawk's appearance in the reboot, both the Revival Series' websites and Jonathan Pierce's rundown in World Series Episode 1 here referenced its team members being involved in Dutch robot games, which both marked rare instances where Robot Wars publicly acknowledged the live event circuit in official media. Dietor was the only World Series competitor to appear in the tag team before. In fact, Dietor's last appearance in the original run of Robot Wars was in the Extreme 2 Tag Team Terror, where it lost in the first round under very similar circumstances in its World Series appearance. Dietor is one of 4 robots to have held a positive win-loss ratio in the original run of Robot Wars before losing this acclaim in the reboot, alongside King Buxton, Supernova and Tough as Nails. However, of all the robots to have equal win-loss ratio, Dietor has the most wins with 13. When Cobra teamed up with Tomahawk in the World Series, this reunited Marco van Heck with a robot he had previously owned. Gabriel was the only UK representative in the World Series which did not participate in the 10-robot Rumble. Gabriel was also the only UK competitor without the Union Jack plastered on it. Matilda was the only house robot to not appear in any of Gabriel's battles. In August 2018, Hexbug revealed that Apollo was in consideration to be made into an RC toy, alongside Carbide and Eruption, allowing Twitter users to vote on which toy they wanted to see the most. Apollo was the second most popular with 25% of the votes behind Carbide's 49%, which is very bizarre that Hexbug would announce this only to never do anything. And finally, this is the final appearance of Team Mad, Team Nemesis, Team Saint, Sabertooth, Team Hertz and Team Rubbish. That's the Cobra team's actual name, by the way. And that is it for today, World Series 1. Now, I won't lie, when I found out that Dietor was returning, I got very excited, and obviously there was a little bit of disappointment that it was basically just a, Cadena Machina with fur just plastered over it, but it doesn't take away from the fact that this is a just wonderful return of the Dietor machine and Dietor team for that matter. It still looks wonderful. I love the way the blade is sort of like a big nose almost. It still has the brush eyebrows, it has the big bloodshot eyes, it has the big smile, it has everything it needs. It's beautiful. It's a shame that his first battle was so shit, let's be honest. The way Terra just goes in and smashes down and kills it straight away, that sucked. Especially because afterwards what could have been Dietor could have been more exciting. And we saw, with Battle of the Stars, Cadena Machine was quite a deadly machine. But we do have the other tag team battle with Apollo and Gabriel, Tomahawk, and I believe Cobra, which is absolutely insane and wonderful in every sense of the word. I obviously made some snarky comments about the battle music and some other things here and there because, it's funny how the final 2 episodes of Series 10, they actually decided to give a shit about everything rather than just deciding, oh wait, we don't really care about the past, we don't really care about battle music, even though we've made other instrumental music for team interviews or other bits to be all overly dramatic, all while trying to claim to be a very realistic series that is going to be more team focused while actually making the teams act like pantomime characters. Can you tell that I'm quite negative towards the reboot era? I don't hate the reboot era as a whole. I'm not gonna be too harsh, but there's a lot of criticisms that are valid, and I think partially one of the main reasons why it failed in the end was well, I've got a video that hopefully will be made at some later point, still in the scripting process, to discuss why the reboot failed. But to give some insights, I think, this is a good example of it. This is what the reboot could have been. It could have been a little bit more exciting. It could have been a little bit more, just simple addition of battle music. Very simple fucking thing to add. And that's all they needed to do. And it was wonderful. The way they, present the teams, they have fun with, seeing these wonderful world robots. They reflect on the past, showing clips of Dietor in Series 5 in particular. I mean, it would have been wonderful to see other clips as well, where Dietor was actually, doing much better rather than it on file flipped over, But I digress, it's those little things could have gone a long way, in my opinion. But as a whole, this episode has quite a lot of great robots in it. Let's just put it out there. Sure, Rabbit M8 and Dietor are just reused stock robots, but it doesn't take away from the fact that you have like Tomahawk versus Terahertz, which is a great fight. You got that opening tag team melee, which is wonderful, absolutely insane. You have that fantastic finale as well between Dietor and Apollo. I love that fight. And the way Apollo just picks on the house robots again, almost tipping over Sikilor, which would have been an amazing feat. The only house robot to never be flipped. Even Mr. Psycho has been toppled twice in the past. It has everything right with it, and it's such a shame that the final ever episode of not Dietor's Wacky Rumbles, that's my shit, of Robot Wars is such a piss poor, dreadful episode, which is also hampered by the fact that it has some, how do I put it? It hasn't aged very well, has it? It's Series 10 is the only series which I can safely say has not aged well in terms of few factors. I mentioned it before, I made this joke plenty of times. Series 10 is the only series where you have a murderer and then a team full of murderers in the same show, which is quite an embarrassing thing to have involved, which does, and of course World Series 2, and it isn't helped by the fact that it's just a very dreadful episode as a whole. It sucks, especially when this one is actually really good. It's really energetic, it's really fun. There's a few, pitfalls here and there. Like I said, the Dietor tag team melee at the beginning sucked. The, the Gabriel versus Rabbit M8 battle was just boring, but everything else is great. Everything else hits the right marks, and of course, what can I say? Dietor's back. It's wonderful, and of course, even the live events today, Dietor is still around. Sure, it uses the iron ore robot and just put fur over, but I don't care. Dietor's back. That's all that matters. But yeah, World Series 1. Definitely the better of the two World Series by it's not even by by a bit, it's by a bloody mile. It's a million times better. So yeah, I kind of recommend it. It is one of the better episodes. Alrighty then, let's see what we get next time around. So we finally get a Series 5 episode, and it happens to be the final heat of Series 5, I meant. Series 5 really has not appeared at all, and that series, I remember back in the day, was the one that everyone used to talk about. It used to be the most memorable. Nowadays, people don't really think it is as good as it was, and of course, L is gonna be interesting to go through because I don't particularly remember that episode, other than it debuted Terahertz and Fluffy destroyed Pussycat's blade in the final, but still lost. That's about it that I can remember. But anyways, I'll see you next time around.